An audio recording captures President Nixon plotting a cover-up, the CIA destroying interrogation recordings before anyone could see them, a banned hospital documentary showing what really went on behind locked doors, and more. These are disturbing recordings that were hidden from the public. Back in 1972, men connected to President Nixon's re-election campaign broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate building in Washington, D.C. They were planting listening devices, stealing documents to give Nixon the edge in the campaign. The investigation quickly pointed to people inside the White House. Nixon's staff tried to cover it up, paying off the burglars, interfering with the FBI investigation, and straight up lying to the public. Proof of Nixon's involvement ended up being revealed in an audio recording which has since been referred to as the smoking gun tape. See, in 1971, before all this happened, Nixon had secretly installed a recording system in the White House. Hidden mics were in the Oval Office, Cabinet Room, phones, Camp David. Every conversation, from casual talks, meetings, phone calls, was recorded, creating over 3,700 hours of audio. The most infamous recording was on June 23, 1972. Nixon and his chief of staff were plotting to use the CIA to block the FBI's investigation. That tape proved Nixon was actively trying to cover up the Watergate scandal. Once the Supreme Court forced him to hand over the tapes in 1974, there was no saving his presidency, and Nixon resigned. In the early 2000s, after the September 11th attacks, the CIA was running a secret program holding and interrogating terror suspects at black site prisons overseas. One of the main sites was in Thailand, and the CIA videotaped these sessions. According to what we know now, there were 92 tapes covering 2 high-value detainees. In November 2005, the CIA ordered all 92 tapes destroyed. Nobody outside the agency had seen them, and for years the public didn't even know they existed. It wasn't until December 2007 that journalists reported the tapes had been made and then destroyed, revealing interrogations that involved, quote, enhanced interrogation techniques, which is the government's fancy way of saying a word that YouTube doesn't allow us to say without this video being flagged. Starts with a T-O-R, ends with a chur. Gotta love excessive censorship. Anyway, when the CIA finally admitted the tapes were gone, it was not received well. I mean, how bad were these interrogations that they decided the evidence needed to be destroyed? There's this documentary from 1967 called Titicut Follies that got banned from public release for almost 25 years. The reason it was held back really shows just how powerful a recording can be when it exposes the truth. Filmmaker Frederick Wiseman went inside Bridgewater State Hospital for the criminally insane in Massachusetts and just let the camera roll. Nothing was staged, just raw footage of the day-to-day reality of a place that was basically hidden from the outside world. When the film was about to premiere at the New York Film Festival, the state freaked out. They got a court order to block it from being shown publicly and even argued it violated patients' privacy. The judge went so far as to order copies destroyed, and for decades after that, only doctors, lawyers, and other professionals were allowed to watch it, but it had to be at special screenings. It wasn't until 1991 that a court finally said the public had the right to see it. By then, most of the people filmed had passed away, and that argument of free speech outweighed privacy concerns. After that, it finally aired on public TV and eventually got a DVD release, finally letting everyone see what had been kept mostly hidden for almost 25 years. Somewhere over Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, during a thunderstorm, someone filmed what looked like a horse flying through the sky. Yes, a horse flying. The video is dark, but you can make out this shape floating in the sky between the flashes of lightning. It looks like it's got legs, maybe even wings. It's very apocalyptic. Naturally, the internet lost its mind. Some said it was the mythical Burak, a flying creature from Islamic tradition. Others claimed that it was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but maybe it was just a horse-shaped balloon. I don't know. In 2007, 2 19-year-olds from Ukraine, Viktor Sayenko and Igor Saprunyak, decided to go on what can only be described as a killing spree. Over the course of a few weeks, they took the lives of 21 people, and they filmed some of it. There was a third conspirator, Alexander Hanza, who was behind the camera. One of their videos was shared online, titled 3 Guys, 1 Hammer, and it's probably one of the most disturbing pieces of footage that's ever leaked onto the internet. I'm not linking it, I'm not showing it, and I strongly recommend you do not go looking for it. I've heard all the details, and it's enough to make me never want to search this up. The clip shows the two attacking a man named Sergei Yatsenko in a wooded area. They attack him with a hammer and a screwdriver that lasts over 6 minutes, and then they laugh and joke about it afterward. You know when people say that everyone views themselves as the hero in their own story, that even when people do bad things, they themselves believe that they're doing it for some greater good? Yeah, it's just not the case. Some people are evil, they know it, and they don't care. In fact, they're delighted by it. That's definitely the case with these three. There were photos on their phones of them attending some of their victims' funerals and giving the finger to the coffins. They're just irredeemable. Eventually, they were caught and tried. Both received life in prison. Cameraman only did about 9 years. He's out of prison now and he has a family. Really aggravating. Timothy Treadwell was a self-proclaimed bear enthusiast and documentary filmmaker who spent 13 summers living among grizzly bears in Alaska's Katmai National Park. He thought he understood them. He believed he had this connection with the bears. In October of 2003, during his last trip, Treadwell and his girlfriend Amy were attacked and killed by a grizzly. What makes this case even more disturbing is that the audio of their deaths was accidentally captured on Treadwell's video camera. The lens cap was on, so there are no visuals, but the audio caught everything. It hasn't been released publicly, but it was captured, and those who have heard it have said it's the most unsettling thing they've ever heard. You hear the sounds of the bear attacking, Treadwell screaming to Amy that he's being killed, and eventually her screams too. Park rangers found the camera at the scene. Werner Herzog, who directed the documentary Grizzly Man, listened to the tape privately. In the film, there's a moment where he's visibly disturbed, telling the owner of the tape that she should never listen to it. Actually, he tells her that she should just destroy it. Ricardo Lopez was a 21-year-old man living in Hollywood, Florida. He spent most of his time in isolation. Over time, he developed this unhealthy obsession with the Icelandic singer Björk, which started as admiration turned into a full-blown fixation. He began writing in a diary that eventually totaled over 800 pages, detailing his fantasies, his anger, and growing frustration over her personal life, especially when he learned she was in a relationship with another musician, Goldie. Lopez started to spiral, filming video diaries 18 hours worth, where you can actually see his mental state decline as it goes on. In the tapes, he talks directly to the camera, ranting about Björk, his insecurities, and his plan. He built a device, a book rigged with a hollowed out section that contained a homemade explosive. The plan was simple: send it to her London address, and when she opened it, it would spray sulfuric acid in her face. On September 12, 1996, he mailed the package and returned home to film one final tape. In it, he painted his face red and green, shaved his head, and played Björk's music in the background, and took his own life on camera, believing that he would meet Björk in heaven. His body was found 4 days later, and police contacted Scotland Yard, who intercepted his package before it ever reached the singer. On November 18, 1978, more than 900 members of the People's Temple lost their lives at a remote settlement in Jonestown, Guyana, and their final moments were captured on audio. Known as the Death Tape, the 45-minute audio captures cult leader Jim Jones speaking to his followers during their final moments, urging everyone to take what he calls a peaceful solution, telling parents to give the deadly mixture to their children first. In the background, there's crying, confusion, and this rising panic. Some people try to speak up, but Jones talks over them, insisting this is the only way out.
So they'll pay for this. They brought this upon us, and they'll pay for that. I leave that destiny to them.
It is gut-wrenching, to say the least. You slowly listen as the crowd gets quieter and quieter until there's just silence. I couldn't sit through it all, nor do I want to. The tape was later recovered by authorities and remains one of the most disturbing audio recordings ever made. Next, we're talking about another documentary. This one was banned in Israel. The film is called Jenin. It was made in 2002 by Palestinian actor and director Mohammed Bakri, and it interviews people in the Jenin refugee camp after an intense Israeli military operation there in April of 2002. After a deadly wave of attacks in Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces launched Operation Defensive Shield, which included going into the Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank. During the fighting, the Israeli military refused to let journalists or rights groups into the camp, so almost all the information coming out at the time was rumor and speculation. Some said hundreds of civilians had died though. Bakri snuck into Jenin with a camera and asked people what they experienced. The result is the Palestinians talking, describing what they lived through in their own words. After a few showings, the Israeli Film Ratings Board banned it, saying it was libelous and one-sided, and tried to stop screenings. At one point, the ban got lifted, then later brought back again years later, so it's kind of gone back and forth. In May 1969, right before the Apollo 11 moon landing, NASA sent Apollo 10 to orbit the moon as a kind of full dress rehearsal. At one point, the crew went around the far side of the moon. Years later, when the mission audio was reviewed and released, something strange came up. The astronauts started talking about hearing this weird, high-pitched sound coming through their headsets. One of them described it as sounding like outer space type music. Now, at the time, this wasn't shared with the public. The recordings just sat in NASA archives. It wasn't until decades later, when mission transcripts and audio started getting released, that people even knew this happened. NASA eventually said it was probably interference between the spacecraft's radios, but the sound was pretty haunting. This ghostly whooshing noise. It must have been really freaky, especially being out in the blackness of space, further from home than most of us will ever even dream of being. Yeah, yikes. Most people know Nixon taped conversations in the White House, like we discussed earlier, but this wasn't the first president to secretly record meetings. President John F. Kennedy did it as well, and for years most of those recordings were locked away. Long before Watergate, JFK had recording systems set up that captured his meetings and phone calls in the Oval Office during his presidency. A lot of this was meant to create a record of conversations with advisors about policy, Cold War stuff, and everything from Cuba to civil rights. And at the time, very few people outside Kennedy's inner circle knew the tapes existed. While some of these recordings were eventually archived, a big chunk of them stayed hidden for decades after JFK's death, because the Kennedy Library had to go through them slowly and systematically make sure classified info was protected. In January 2012, the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library officially released the final 45 hours of those secret White House tapes, including recordings from just months before the end of his presidency. That brought the total to over 248 hours of recorded conversations and phone calls that had never been available to the public before. Now, the footage you're looking at here probably seems pretty unremarkable. It's a plane taking off. Alright, whatever, but this isn't just any plane. This plane is part of a top secret airline that for a long time wasn't ever officially acknowledged. It's called Janet Airlines, which isn't even the official name, it's just what the public has nicknamed it. This is a fleet of planes run for the US Air Force, and their entire job is to fly workers into highly classified military sites, and yes, that includes places like Area 51. The planes take off from a private unmarked terminal at the Las Vegas airport, separate from regular passengers. The people on these flights are all military personnel with high-level clearance. The planes are usually just white passenger jets with a single red stripe. There's no logo. But they fly constantly, sometimes hundreds of flights a week, going back and forth between Vegas and these restricted places. For years, this whole operation was kind of this open secret. People would spot the planes, but officially, there was never any acknowledgement of what they were doing, and even now, the details are still murky. Most people know about the few Pentagon UFO videos that got released in 2020, but that's really just a small slice of what the military has. Back in the 2000s and 2010s, Navy pilots, fighter jets, and other military sensors captured dozens of videos and radar recordings of objects moving in ways that couldn't be explained. These weren't some blurry lights in the sky. The footage includes infrared radar and aircraft camera clips that show objects making sharp turns, suddenly stopping, and just doing movements that don't match any known aircraft. The 4 videos that leaked and went public were shocking enough, but the Pentagon admits they're holding more recordings the public has never seen. Some of these are supposedly high-quality, full-color footage captured by trained military personnel. Insiders say that at least 46 videos exist. Members of Congress have demanded some of these clips be released, but the Pentagon says it can't release them because it could expose sensitive military operations and technology. So it'll probably be a long time before we see these things. Most people don't realize that the airwaves were, and still are, packed with secret messages meant for undercover spies. One of the weirdest ones was a station nicknamed the Lincolnshire Poacher. It was an unofficial, off-the-books operation run by British intelligence. Every single broadcast started the same way. This tinny, synthesized version of an old English folk song, the Lincolnshire Poacher, would play, and it sounded like it was coming from a haunted ice cream truck. The same melody would play 12 times in a row. Once the music stopped, a woman's voice, totally robotic and emotionless, would come on and start reading groups of 5 numbers over and over again. They were coded messages, and technically anyone with a radio could come across this. You just wouldn't be able to make sense of any of it if you weren't in the know. Now, the reason they did it this way is actually pretty brilliant. See, if a spy got caught with a high-tech military transmitter, they were done for. But everyone had a shortwave radio back then, so you could be sitting in a cafe or a hotel room while receiving top-secret orders from M16. Joseph James D'Angelo was a police officer in California during the 70s and early 80s, but at night, he was also something else. Someone who the media dubbed the Nightstalker, responsible for a series of home invasions and violent attacks across multiple counties. He managed to avoid arrest for decades. DNA technology just wasn't advanced enough back then. But amongst all the horrific details of his crimes, all the awful first-hand accounts, there's also a piece of audio, a voicemail, that he left on a victim's answering machine in 1978. A message that would have sounded like a sick prank if it hadn't actually come from a man who very much meant what he said. "I'm going to kill you," repeated over and over in this ghoulish, raspy whisper. That voicemail wasn't made public until many years later, but it perfectly shows how he terrorized victims beyond just the physical attacks. He took pleasure in psychologically toying with his victims. D'Angelo was finally caught in 2018, and this voicemail became part of the evidence used in court. On August 15, 1989, a man was driving with his family when their car overheated on the side of a road near Stockton, California. While Dad checked the damage, his wife and son stayed close by. After deciding to call for help, he and his son started walking toward the nearest phone. That's when his son spotted a camouflage jacket lying on the ground nearby. Curious, they checked the jacket out and found an unlabeled videotape tucked inside a pocket. They took the tape home and watched it, and what they saw was chilling. It was footage of a house on fire, with a creepy voice whispering things like, "I told you I'd do it, Omar."
Look at the fire. This is my domain. My hell.
The family handed the tape over to the police right away, convinced that the person filming was, of course, the same person who set the fire. Investigators also found a wooden pestle, a glove matching the jacket, and a ceramic skull near where the jacket was found. Despite enhancing the video frame by frame, police couldn't immediately identify the location. It wasn't until viewers recognized the burning house as a construction site in Redwood City, 80 miles away, that authorities were able to link the tape to the incident. Eventually, 2 teenagers were arrested. One admitted to starting the fire and recording the whole thing. Both were minors at the time. One went to juvenile hall, the other was committed to a mental hospital. Maury Travis was a serial killer from St. Louis. He took his own life in 2002 soon after being arrested. Police had found a torment chamber in his basement where he'd taken the lives of 12 women. though that number could be as high as 20. Police also found a collection of videotapes. He'd labeled them Your Wedding Day. These tapes showed him subjecting the women to twisted games before eventually taking their lives. These videos were so graphic that the St. Louis police chief ordered every officer who'd seen the footage to get counseling afterward. That kind of tells you everything you need to know. Back in 1975, two rafters made a deadly mistake on a river in Binghamton, New York. They tried to float over a Lowhead dam, one of those sneaky drowning machines where the water just rolls back underneath and will trap anything unlucky enough to get caught in it. The rafters got stuck in the current and couldn't escape. The local fire department rushed in to save them, but things went horribly wrong. The rescue team themselves got trapped. The entire disaster was caught on camera. Multiple people died that day, showing just how dangerous Lowhead dams really are. The video became an important warning, though, used to educate people about the risks of these dams. In May of 2008, twin sisters Sabina and Ursula Ericson ran into traffic on the M6 motorway in the UK. No one knows exactly what set them off, but it started after they got kicked off a bus for acting strange. A BBC film crew just happened to be tagging along with highway police when they showed up to check on the sisters, who were standing on the median. Then, out of nowhere, Ursula ran straight into a speeding truck. It crushed her legs. Sabina followed and was hit by a car. Somehow, both survived, and surprisingly, they fought off police and medics. It was almost like they were possessed. Ursula screamed at the paramedics. Sabina punched a cop and tried to run into traffic again. The entire incident was caught on camera. The next day, Sabina was released without a psych evaluation. She wandered around, met a guy who offered to let her stay the night, and hours later, she took his life with a kitchen blade and ran off, smashing herself with a hammer and then jumping off a 40-foot bridge. She lived. Sabina was eventually arrested, though, diagnosed with shared psychosis and sentenced to 5 years for manslaughter. Ursula disappeared back to the US.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the lightning strike. I remember when I was a kid counting the time between the thunder and lightning, trying to see how far away this strike was, and despite the fact that it was able to light up the entire sky, it always, thankfully, seemed so far away. That is certainly not the case for this dashcam video though, as it catches a lightning strike touching down just nearby to the car that caught it. While everyone was clearly okay in this video, it definitely was a strike that would be a little too close for comfort, I think, for anybody. In our number 9 spot today, we have the fallen lines. This dashcam video comes from a day where it was clearly very stormy weather. It's raining, you can tell there's a lot of wind, and the visibility is quite low. It is said that after a huge gust of wind, this completely unexpected thing happened, and thankfully it was all caught on camera for us to see. If he had just been a little bit more ahead of where he was, those lines could have fallen right on top of him. How absolutely terrifying of an experience that would be. Thankfully, he was alright and got out of this scary situation uninjured. In our number 8 spot today, we have the late night road stop. This video comes from someone's dash cam as they are driving along the highway. They get to a stop that is blocked off with pylons, so they have to stop, but there are no police cars or any construction workers. There's just one car by itself stopped beside the pylons. Once he comes to a stop, the person from the mysterious car begins approaching his vehicle. You can see their legs, but it's dark, so their face is still hidden in the video. The guy driving the car tries to figure out what's going on, but obviously senses that this is some sort of a bad situation.
What's going on? Can I help you with something?
Yes.
He obviously quickly speeds off because who knows what is about to happen. It's unclear whether this stranger had intentions to rob him or maybe even something worse, so I am very glad that he got out of there instead of sticking around to find out. In our number 7 spot today we have the tornado. Tornadoes are such a weird thing, and this dash cam catches a huge one as it touches down and rips across a highway. This video was posted on YouTube by James Hammett, and the description explains how this tornado formed about 8 miles north of Laramie, Wyoming on June 6th, 2018. It also shares that this tornado was rated an EF3, which is severe and strong, with winds from 218 to 266 kilometers per hour according to the scale. The video starts off with him realizing that the tornado is about to touch down.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
So while this of course looks absolutely incredible, and I, like I'm sure many of you are, was in complete awe of watching this huge thing form, but then I became horrified because that's a gigantic tornado and I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that thing. The video continues on to later show the tornado as it rips across the highway. In our number 6 spot today we have the swarm. Okay, I hate bugs, all of them. I know that many of them are important, but there are some that just cause more problems than anything. And you know what one of the worst is? Locusts. That is exactly why this dash cam is an absolute nightmare. This is a video that comes to us from Russia, and at first I thought it was capturing some kind of crazy storm, but as it turns out this storm is actually a swarm of locusts. There are easily millions of locusts flying around, pelting into the front of this truck, and even the truck had to slow down because you can barely see what's in front of you. In our number 5 spot today we have the gigantic spider. Spider haters beware, you're not gonna like this one. I'm just gonna let you watch some of the clip first and then we can discuss. Yeah, just a short clip, but depending on if the dress is blue or gold, you might have seen this spider as a terrifyingly large creature right out of a sci-fi flick, and you might be wondering why that officer isn't running for the hills. Well, if you're like me and saw this sort of optical illusion, you'll be pleased to know that this is just a smaller spider that is walking across the front of the window, just right in front of the camera for us all to have a glorious view of its creepy crawliness. In our number 4 spot today we have the close call. Close calls are just one of those things that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. They're close calls so everyone's okay, but it's just so frightening to see things that could have gone so much worse. This one comes from Life Trucking in 2014. The dashcam captured what was going on in front of it, of course, which was just like a car driving beside a semi. You know, the perfect final destination scenario. What happens next is definitely unexpected. Seriously, that would be so terrifying for the people in the car. I don't know what exactly happened here. Maybe there was some sort of a shift in the cargo that resulted in this off-balance situation, but whatever exactly it was, I'm just glad that it wasn't way worse. In our number 3 spot today we have the strike. Mother Nature is not known to mess around, and this video is proof of that. Usually there are warning signs before some kind of disaster strikes, but sometimes it just likes to come seemingly out of a clear blue sky. This video comes from a quiet neighborhood that definitely wasn't expecting this out of nowhere lightning strike. Like, the sky is clear, the birds are chirping, and then all of a sudden, what in the world? Apparently this is a sort of weather phenomena where a lightning bolt travels out from the back of a storm cloud that had recently passed through. Well, good to know that even though you think you might have survived the storm, there could still be something lurking out there waiting for the right time to strike. In our number 2 spot today we have the intersection. This dash cam shows someone slowly driving up to an intersection when they come across a car that is parked right in the middle of it. Definitely not a normal situation, but at this point maybe it's nothing, maybe it's someone who needs help, and maybe something more sinister is going on. The driver slowly approaches the scene, and this is when he sees a person. This man just walks in front of the car so that he can't proceed and just stands there, hood up, looking creepy as heck. The driver does what any sane person would do and just quickly maneuvers around this person and speeds the heck off, because what in the world is going on? It definitely can't be anything good. Apparently the person in this car tried to call his wife, who is said to have been driving down the same road just a minute behind him, but she didn't get the call in time and experienced the same frightening thing. Thankfully they were both able to get away and they're both okay, but to this day they don't know what intentions that creepy man had. In our number 1 spot today we have the accident. This dashcam video is a bit of an older one, it comes from 2005, but I swear it is so worth it. This is another police dashcam vid, and this time it captures the aftermath of a train accident that turns into something even bigger. The video starts out with a pretty dark view, nothing really too interesting, and you can just hear voices talking over the radio. Suddenly, however, as the cruiser backs up a bit, the picture starts to get a little brighter. The voices on the radio are explaining how there was an explosion after the accident, and now things are on fire and it's only growing. The rest of the footage shows the police car backing up as it captures this huge fire that continuously grows to a level I don't think anyone was expecting. Videos like this really just go to show how quickly these things can get out of control and just how dangerous it all really is.
So first at number 10 is the drowning. This clip was recorded by Brendan Cook and Barbara McBeath from the Ghost Investigator Society. It was recorded in an empty room in an abandoned mental hospital in Ogden, Utah. The recording I'm showing is something Cook said is the oddest recording that the pair has ever recorded. So it sounds like a child is saying, "I can't breathe," over and over. Then there are voices in and out, then water thrashing. That continues for a while until there is a thud, and then silence. The pair of investigators claim that there were no children present and that there has been no running water in the facility for almost 20 years. The only water in the building is in the building's basement where there is an old well. Listen for yourself. Number 9 is the table incident. So Kimberly Rodney on YouTube heard odd knocking noises coming from a table in her bedroom. So she set up a table recorder to see if she could pick anything up. She heard 5 different voices on the EVP after analyzing it. She left the tape recorder alone in her room during these recordings. The first 4 recordings were more muffled and had to be turned up to be heard, but the 5th one was something she classified as a Class A recording. Listen out for "Back to Work with Me" and see if that's what you hear. She said when she heard it, she jumped a mile, took off her headphones, and stopped analyzing the tape. It caught her so off guard she stopped recording for things for a year and a half. And number 8 is a child. So this clip is from YouTube user Jojo31978. I will now be calling her Jojo from now on. She was getting her voice recorder ready to see if she could capture some EVP when her 8-year-old son asked her how it worked. Jojo asked him to say something into it after she pressed record, that way she could show him. He said, "I love Mum," into it, but when she played it back she heard another child's voice before her son's. Have a listen.
I love Mum. I love Mum.
Jojo is pretty sure the dissonant voice says, "Call Poppy." Jojo finds this significant since the reason she got the recorder out was to see if her dad would leave a message. Both she and her sister have lost children, so Jojo says she is sure it is one of them on the recording, maybe telling her to reach out to her dad. At number 7 we have high-pitched mystery sound. So this sound is now known as the Forest Grove sound because it happened exclusively in Forest Grove, Oregon. It happened only during February of 2016, but it was so annoying that about 200 calls were made to the Forest Grove Police Department about it.
The truth is out there, and whatever it sure is loud and baffling. Neil Karlinski, ABC News, Seattle.
So to you, does it sound like a steam whistle, a flute played off pitch, or car brakes? Whatever it was, no one knows. A physics professor named Andrew Dawes mapped out where noise was heard, but any results were inconclusive. So no one has any solid facts about what was doing this, and it just ended up stopping. It wasn't wildlife, it wasn't water or gas leak, there was a haunted house later that year based on the noise, but the mystery isn't solved. The haunted house, by the way, was called Aliens in the Grove, so maybe that's what was happening? At number 6, a disembodied ghost voice. So this was posted in March of 2019. Ghost Hunt Weekend says they believe it's a man's voice saying either EVP or EV. It was recorded at the Thomas House Hotel from inside the Grand Seance Room. A woman asks, "Would you do that please? Would you tell me your name?" And then some raspy audio comes through. That's what Ghost Hunt Weekends thinks is a man voice saying EVP or EV. Now, if it was saying EV, I'm guessing the voice may be looking for someone named Evie, a wife, mother, sister, or child perhaps. But if it's saying EVP, I bet it is some ghost whispering to another one to stay quiet so they don't get caught. You know, like, shh, it's EVP type thing. Have a listen for yourself.
Do that, please. Will you tell me your name? Will you tell me your name? Will you tell me your name?
Number 5, kayaking. Let's have another break from the paranormal and switch over to the just straight up scary. This one is another one that I found on TikTok and comes from a man who is kayaking with a GoPro attached to his helmet. He is peacefully going down the water when an alligator appears to come out of nowhere from the side of the footage. The alligator bumps into the side of the kayak, flipping it over and leaving the man underwater and vulnerable to attack. Fortunately for him, he appears to know what he's doing and is able to quickly flip himself back over and get out of the situation. The alligator also apparently seems to have lost interest, as you can't see it anywhere nearby in the footage after the original attack. Perhaps it was just interested in playing a quick prank and scaring the kayaker. The situation is over and done with pretty quickly, but I'm sure the man had this on his mind for a long time and probably avoided kayaking that area for at least a little while. Number 4, witch hut. This footage comes from a vlogger on YouTube that has apparently been having some strange experiences. He says that he has been having run-ins with a witch and decides to go into the forest in the dead of night and search for where she's been living. Definitely sounds like a great horror movie plot. The footage shows the vlogger stumbling upon wooden crosses, which he says indicate that this is the home of the witch, also showing a large teepee made out of branches. He says that he also found other ceremonial and strange items, but he doesn't actually show them in the video. He suddenly gets frightened and turns to the left, shining his flashlight. It reveals a woman standing eerily still, wearing what looks like a white gown or a wedding dress. She has dark hair and in the video also looks to me like she has no face, though this could just be a result of the video quality and lighting. The vlogger finally decides to make a good decision and runs away from the area as soon as he encounters the witch. Number 3, abandoned hospital. We've covered urban exploration a few times in this series, and let's take a look at another one, this time coming from an abandoned hospital facility. This one is potentially a mix of paranormal and just a frightening human encounter. The YouTuber called Ruin Road is walking through the facility when he gets to a dark area on a lower level. He hears a grunting voice come from the dark and he responds with a quick "hi" before quickly making his way out of there, not wanting to discover who or what was making the noise. When he gets outside, however, he is met with someone who tells him that he's not allowed to be there, claiming to be a security guard at the facility that is apparently being rebuilt. The man then offers to give him a tour of the place if he pays him some cash. Many people believe that this man was actually not a security guard or worker of any kind, and that this easily could have turned into a pretty scary situation for the YouTuber. Number 2, fire alarm. This video was published in 2017 by a YouTuber called Edge Ninja. Apparently, a lot of creepy things happened on GoPro in 2017 for some reason. The man explains that the factory, as it's called, has always been an eerie landmark in the community. Apparently, no one ever seeing anyone or anything going in or out of the abandoned building for many years. One day, however, he realizes that there is a fire alarm going off in the building, despite it apparently being dormant for around 30 years. He circles the building to show that the alarm is going off in multiple different areas, but the creepiest part comes when he zooms into a window to show the alarm that's going off in a stairwell. People pointed out that in the window to the left, you can see what appears to be a creepy figure, many people saying that it looks like a ghostly face. Number 1, abandoned street. Now let's wrap up this list with something that isn't paranormal and isn't death-defying, but is instead just downright creepy and unsettling. Urban exploration videos often share the discovery of creepy things, whether it be graffitied demonic symbols or maybe leftover documents from an abandoned asylum, but this YouTuber found something pretty unique. He was exploring an abandoned street when he decided to enter one of the empty buildings. As he walks through the house, it seems to be your typical abandoned location, peeling paint, graffiti, and broken floors. But when he enters the basement of the home, he finds something he definitely didn't didn't expect, a spine vertebrae. He does what any sane person would do and pokes it a bit, because why wouldn't you? People in the comments debate over whether it's from an animal or a human being, but what we know for sure is that it's definitely creepy.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the ambush. This dashcam video is one that captures a sort of terrifying ambush. The video shows someone driving on what looks like a sort of exit ramp when all of a sudden people start coming out of nowhere, and there appears to be a sort of makeshift barrier made of tree branches meant to prevent the driver from being able to continue on. This is honestly one of those videos that like unlocks a new fear I didn't even know that I had. The driver ended up being able to get away relatively unharmed, but I'm sure absolutely frightened. I'm glad they had the dash cam on to capture exactly what happened on that scary evening. In our number 9 spot today, we have the landslide. This video is one that comes from China from April 4th, 2016. During this time, there was apparently very heavy rainfall. Alone, that isn't too much of a problem, but that is certainly not the case in this scary dashcam footage. Here, this rainfall ended up triggering a landslide that was just seconds away from burying this car. It seems as though the driver in the car with the camera must have known something was about to happen because of the fact that they are slowly backing up. Thank goodness that person quickly passing by was able to brake fast enough that they just missed the slide entirely. In our number 8 spot today, we have the seance. This video is said to be taken from a police dash cam, which is probably like the mecca when it comes to creepy things caught on dash cams, but this one in particular is unlike anything I've ever seen before. This video comes from June 27th, 2015, and it shows an officer driving down a dark roadway in the middle of the night. He turns down a dirt road, but just right as he turns, he comes across a woman just standing there alone with her arms folded and a small fire at her feet. She doesn't move for a moment before flinging her arms right out open wide. Her head is flung back and there is some sort of weird light flickering in her mouth, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels like we just stumbled upon some sort of satanic ritual. In our number 7 spot today, we have the sticks. This dashcam video comes from November of 2013. It starts off by showing a lone driver at night driving on what looks like a dark highway. Nothing too out of the ordinary, mostly just an eerie situation, but all of that changes suddenly. There's just a huge bundle of sticks thrown out into the road. Thankfully, the person at the wheel, although clearly startled, reacts well and is totally fine. Here's the thing though, where did those sticks come from? Sure, it could have maybe been like a gust of wind or something, but that just seems a little too convenient. No? In our number 6 spot today, we have the clown. It doesn't matter how you spin it, clowns out of clown context are scary. I mean, remember that random killer clown phase where people would just go out dressed up as clowns to freak people out? Yeah, it was terrifying. Most people just wanted to have a little spooky fun, but some others wanted to take things a step further and actually commit some sinister crimes. It's kind of hard to tell the difference when it's just people dressed up as a clown. It is possible you're wondering why I'm talking about clowns, but of course this all ties back into a dash cam video. It is said that this video was caught on camera as a family was just trying to drive home. Finally, after driving in reverse for a while, they shifted back into drive and just went straight forward, forcing the clown to get out of the way.
At number 5 is Whispers by the Morgue. So, the American Paranormal Research Association worked in partnership with the Los Angeles Paranormal Association. They were at Linda Vista Community Hospital. They collected an EVP in the basement hallway that led to the morgue. On the recording, one investigator asked, "How are you associated with the hospital?" And in response, they heard this.
"How are you associated with the hospital?"
Now listen again and see if you can hear what the investigators thought they heard. "We're not dead."
"How are you associated with the hospital?"
So if these are not ghosts of the dead, why are they hanging out at the morgue? Or are these spirits that have passed that are in denial? Or are they playing a joke? I obviously don't know. These are audio recordings that can't be explained, so I can't really tell you, can I? But see what you hear and whatever you can make of it. On to number 4, Whispers from Roxy. So this EVP was captured during a paranormal investigation at a squash club in Swinton, United Kingdom. It was originally a movie theater called Roxy Cinema that shut its doors unexpectedly in 1965. It was being investigated because the squash club's manager reported seeing a shadow ghost and some bottles moving by themselves. Here's the EVP. The The investigative team said they heard, "I'm one down here," but others have suggested that the clip says, "I'm not done here." So listen again. Which do you think it is? Number 3 is televised scream. So EVP are captured by paranormal investigative teams, and that includes the Ghost Adventures crew. During season 17, episode 4, Tintic Mining District, they shared this EVP that they caught.
What name are you connected to? Who brought you here?
Zach's prompting questions were 1. What name are you connected to? And 2. Who brought you here? Zach says there is a voice that responds, Zach Baggins, in response to his first question. But the really chilling audio is the response to the second question.
Who brought you here?
Dude. What the? I agree, guys. That's not human at all.
Do you hear that? That's some sort of demonic or ghastly shrill scream. So whatever that thing was that made that noise, it's not happy. Another demonic sound is at number 2, demon sounds. So this sound was posted by Don Garvey on YouTube. He wrote that it comes from paranormal investigators in Philadelphia. So apparently the backstory is a homeowner was complaining of noises coming from their basement in the middle of the night. The paranormal investigative team put a digital audio recorder in the basement to see if they could pick up anything. The first 3 days there was nothing out of the ordinary. But then on the 4th night they caught this at 3:12 a.m. Garvey said in the original video that the audio was amplified 20 times, but nothing else was done to the audio. Garvey posted this back in November of 2007, just so you know. But let's go on to our last one. Number 1 is ghost fight. For this one, I invite you to have a listen and see what you can hear for yourself. Listen out for clock ticking, sounds of fighting, screaming, a man's voice, a voice saying hello baby, and more screaming. Now that you have heard it, I'll give you more details. This clip was captured by the Central New York Ghost Hunters back in 2007. They did an overnight investigation at an old hotel. The hotel apparently had a history of nefarious activity, which may be why the EVP is the way it is. Everyone on hotel staff and the ghost hunters present the night of the recording were female, but listen out for the distinctly male-sounding voice in the recording. They recorded it in a stairwell below an empty floor where they had been hearing sounds, so maybe those sounds they had been hearing were just the sounds of the ghosts, and they caught it more amplified on the EVP.
Number 10, forest robbery. Let's start off with one outside of the realm of the paranormal, but still inside the realm of the terrifying. This biker was going down a trail on a beautiful day when suddenly a man can be seen appearing from the trees and bushes. The man runs up to the biker, revealing that he is armed. 2 more men then join him from the trees and they rob the man, stealing his wallet, bike, car keys, and more. I can't imagine how terrifying this scenario must be when there is clearly no one else close by who can help you, and there's truly nothing you can really do. While the men are robbing him, one even looks directly into the GoPro camera that the biker's wearing on his head, but seems to not realize what it is, leaving after telling the man to walk away with his hands up. Thanks to the GoPro not being stolen, it was handed in as evidence and all 3 men were able to be identified and arrested, though I can imagine the biker probably never goes down that same path. Number 9, Ontario Bigfoot. This one comes from my home province of Ontario, and the clip has been featured on a few different shows about unidentified creatures and cryptids. This couple was driving down the road and they had a GoPro camera attached to the back of their car, pointing towards the side of the road and trees. They didn't seem to realize at the time that while they were driving, they caught footage of something incredibly mysterious. Watching the footage back, you can see a large dark creature standing at the side of the road. While it does appear to have 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head, its shape is not entirely humanoid, looking more like a large gorilla standing in the bushes. Many people believe that this couple managed to capture video evidence of a Bigfoot in Canada. While some people think that this may be a hoax because of the fact that the creature doesn't appear to move, saying it could just be a mannequin, others fully believe that this is real evidence of Bigfoot. So what do you think? Number 8, Skier Falls. To me, this is one of the most terrifying videos on this list. The full video is around 6 16 minutes long and shows the ordeal of a skier on a mountain. He is with a group and they appear to turn around to head in a different direction. When he moves, however, the soft snow falls away to reveal a crevasse underneath him, and he falls in. Watching the footage is terrifying as you can see the dark depths of the ravine and the struggle that the skier goes through to try and hold on. I truly can't imagine how I would react in that situation. As he moves around, he actually falls lower, looking up towards the light and yelling out to alert his companions to the fact that he is no longer with them. As he tries to climb his way out and prevent himself from falling any deeper, you can finally see one of the other skiers lean their head over the opening of the crack. They're able to drop a rope and assist him in climbing out, and a helicopter picked them up shortly after. Number 7. Police clearing. This video comes from Reddit and is the footage of a Brazilian police officer that they had originally posted on Twitter. The group of officers are clearing through what appears to be an abandoned asylum or other large dilapidated building. As they're walking through, they come across a door that is acting incredibly out of the ordinary. The door is swinging back and forth wildly, hanging off of its hinges as it swings in the empty air. There doesn't appear to be any reasonable explanation for this, and even the police officers in the video are shocked and appear to try and figure out what's going on. There doesn't seem to be any significant wind that would be pushing the door, and definitely not in the way it is going in two different directions at the same speed. Also, due to the fact that the area is open, there is seemingly no way that changes in air pressure would be causing the door to move like that. The police officers eventually decide to get the heck out of there, leaving the door behind them with no explanation of what was happening. Number 6. Shark attack. This one is another one to add to the list of situations that I have nightmares about. This one comes from a group of scuba divers who were going spear fishing, and one of them is equipped with a GoPro to film their exploits. They head off in their own different directions, and the diver finally reaches the sea floor, looking around for any fish. The water is incredibly dark and murky, and you really can't see very far ahead of you. So when he looks up, a great white shark suddenly appears as if out of nowhere out of the murky water, heading right towards him. He thinks quickly, sticking out his spear to keep the shark away as it tries to turn back and come at him again. Once the shark is far enough away, the diver resurfaces, seeing that their boat isn't that far. He yells out to his friends in warning, telling them that the shark is nearby and to obviously try and avoid it. I think the scariest part of this video is how the shark appears like a jump scare, giving the diver only a split second to figure out what to do.
Number 5. Hoover and JFK. This one goes pretty deep. Officials tapping officials. Back in the 60s, there was a file you would probably go to jail for trying to even see for yourself. Just by doing that, they'd be like, yep, you're going, see ya, go wash your eyes. This file was the FBI's official and confidential file. It was kept in the office of J. Edgar Hoover, and inside it was just a plethora of secrets. I'm talking about senators doing sketchy stuff, but one file showed that Hoover was taping phone calls with JFK. Hoover had enough dirt on everybody. That was his whole plan. And what he knew about JFK was that he was having an affair with a 25-year-old named Judith Campbell Exner, who at the time was also seeing mob boss Sam Giancana. So it's like a love triangle of like, wow, we shouldn't be doing this at all. In March 1962, Hoover told Kennedy over brunch that the FBI had tapes on him, and of course this affair. Odd that JFK didn't fire him until his death in 1972. That's a pretty odd thing. That's a loaded threat right there, to be honest. He's like, okay, I see that, and I'm not going to touch it. Enjoy your mimosa. I'm not going to do anything about this. Have fun. Just one bill, please. Number 4. Linda Tripp. This next one is a real trip. That's I like throwing puns in. I had to. Back in 1998, Pentagon employee Linda Tripp would have phone calls with Monica Lewinsky, who of course was involved in a scandal with President Clinton. There's some things that happened there. So these conversations were probably pretty juicy, for lack of a better term. Lewinsky even caught on to these recordings at one point while they were happening, and she asked Linda on the other side what this double clicking noise is that she kept hearing. She's like, what's going on? Why is there clicking? Are you chewing gum? Tripp lied to her. She was like, yep, I am chewing gum for sure. That's it. Definitely not me recording something. Meanwhile, Tripp was indeed secretly recording tapes that led to Clinton being impeached. The charges against Tripp for illegally recording were dropped. Snitches get off the hook, apparently. That's wild. Number 3, Ralph Berger. Sometimes you get caught and then the city has your back and then you almost get away with it. It's shady and scary and all lies. But that's how it works, especially if you're Ralph Berger. This attorney was under investigation. He was suspected of bribing public officials, so the police just had to listen in. They're like, oh, we have to know what's going on. They tapped Berger's calls for 2 months. Lo and behold, proof was found. Thing is, Berger had rights, so this was tricky at this point. He argued for the courts to throw out the case by arguing his Fourth Amendment rights were exploited. He claimed a mistrial in order to dodge corruption charges and it worked. New York was on his side at this point, but ultimately the Supreme Court said this was legal and you are for sure a criminal. See you later, alligator. And then New York was like, I guess, yeah, he's bad. That's a good call too, I guess. I don't know. Number 2, Paul Manafort. You never know when the Russian mob may pop up and just start listening about. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort was under investigation under secret court orders. The FBI obtained a warrant to listen in on Manafort's phone calls back in 2014, and then come 2016, the FBI learned about possible ties between Trump associates and Russian operatives. He was the target of these FBI wiretaps before and after Trump's campaign because under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, the government can secretly wiretap if you can convince a judge that they're possibly agents of a foreign power. So if you're ever like, I think John's cheating on me, maybe he's an agent of a foreign power, just convince somebody and then you can go through his phone. And finally, number 1, Squidgygate. This one's not so much FBI, but it's pretty juicy. Odds are you haven't heard of it. Let's do it. Lady Diana married Prince Charles on July 29th, 1981. The wedding, of course, was huge. It was televised. It was a flashy whole event. Diana was only 20 at the time. Can you imagine? 20 years old. Wow. The pair had 2 children, Prince William and Prince Harry, but rumors quickly spread about how strong the couple really was behind closed doors. Adultery was rumored on both sides. Finally, come 1996, they divorced. Diana goes on to do great charitable work, but a phone call surfacing from 1992 still has us talking. The call was between Diana and childhood friend James Gilby. During this call, which went down New Year's Eve back in 1989, James called Diana Darling and Squidgy, those fun little nicknames, even confessing his love for her, in case we didn't catch that with the whole Squidgy nickname. Diana told him about how her husband made her feel awful and made her life just miserable, and then 2 ham radio operators just happened to overhear all of it and then record it all. And they sold the tape in 1992. Ken Worf, who was a former bodyguard of Diana, he believes the government communications headquarters played the recordings on loop until radio operators had to catch it. Then they did the deed from there. When we think of Princess Diana, this part of her dark history is often overlooked.
Number 10, Ghost Girl. Let's kick this list off with the paranormal footage of what some people believe to be a ghost or some other supernatural being. In 2017, a YouTuber posted footage of him and his friends in Mexico at night. The footage starts off with the group standing on a street, seemingly having been frightened by something as they shine their flashlights down the road. You can't see anything at first, but the men seem certifiably spooked and must have all seen something pretty scary to put them in this state. When the camera turns to one of the boys on the ground, it then moves back up, showing the outline of a girl standing against a building. It appears to be a woman with long dark hair, with her neck turned at an odd angle. Though it's a bit hard to make out exactly what it is or what the person looks like, this is apparently the creature that had scared the boys, as they react with panic and immediately start running away. Number 9, the morgue. This video was also published in 2017 by a user called SteadyPop. They were exploring an abandoned building when they came across an underground morgue. As they walk closer to the dark hallway, you can hear the distinct sound of something metal slamming against the wall. As they walk further down the flickering hallway, you get the distinct feeling that this is the worst decision a horror movie character could ever make. Just turn around and leave. But the cameraman doesn't, and instead braves the dark expanse of the morgue, discovering the source of the slamming sound. It is a large red door, rhythmically banging open and shut. The sound of the banging is just so loud and terrifying. While some people in the comments have claimed it was just a trick with a fishing line, could the fishing line really have been able to slam the door that hard? Number 8, cliff diving. Alright, now let's quickly move out of the paranormal and go to another just terrifying, death-defying situation. I found this video on TikTok and it seems to show a man going cliff diving. He is crawling along the top of the cliff, holding on to what looks to be a fence, potentially showing the fact that he is in a restricted or even dangerous area. But he continues on, moving towards where the water is. He eventually makes it to the point that he decides to jump from, but this immediately shows itself to be a pretty bad idea. As he jumps in, it becomes clear in the footage that he may not make it to the water, and he realizes this himself, yelling out in fear. Fortunately, he does not hit the rocks below, just barely making it to the water. If he had been only a few inches closer, he likely would have hit the ground and suffered from severe injuries. The near miss is terrifying to watch and has you on the edge of your seat hoping that he makes it. Number 7, bad ideas. Alright, now back to the paranormal. paranormal. I've titled this one Bad Ideas because it comes from a YouTube channel called The Bad Ideas, and the whole situation is just generally a bad idea. He is riding down a trail with his friend with a GoPro camera mounted on his head when he suddenly comes across another GoPro that appears to have been strategically left on a tree stump for someone else to find. They then have the bad idea of taking it home and seeing what footage is on it. When they open the camera, a piece of paper falls out that appears to have a password, and when they get into the footage, it is incredibly eerie. It is scarily edited footage of a mysterious masked creature, a walking mannequin, a young man with a skull, and a weirdly edited photo of Jesus. Some people say that the video is staged due to the placement of the GoPro, but even if it is staged, the footage is enough to put anyone on edge. Many people in the comments believing that the footage is actually cursed. Number 6. Forest Creature. This one was uploaded to YouTube under an account called Strange Videos, and it definitely fits that description. The footage comes from someone walking in the woods, filming their experience on their GoPro. Suddenly, in the background of the footage, you can see what appears to be a dark and mysterious creature. As the videographer gets closer, the identity of the creature becomes even more confusing. Many people saying that it's clear that it's not Bigfoot, but it definitely isn't human either. It appears to be tall and skinny, swaying its arms in a slow and purposeful motion. The footage is incredibly eerie to watch, as you feel like you're just waiting for it to turn around and look into the camera. Like the last one, some people believe that this footage has been staged or edited, but again, the footage is still incredibly unsettling, real or not. To me, it looks like this guy managed to catch a demogorgon on camera. Number 5. Kitchen Poltergeist. This video is one of many that comes from a YouTube channel that is known for their alleged poltergeist that resides inside their home. They often post videos that they have filmed that seem to show evidence of the restless spirit disrupting things within their home. This video in particular was filmed by a GoPro that they put on a turntable high up on a shelf to record the entirety of their kitchen overnight. In the video footage, there are 3 main things that you can see. The first appears to be an oven door opening slowly, followed by the main door opening and then a chair falling backwards and crashing into the floor. There doesn't appear to be anything set up in the footage that would have made it obvious that this was faked. No strings or anyone else that can be seen in the room. While some people believe that videos like this are faked, it's hard to prove, so if you don't think it's real, let me know why down below. Number 4. Bear Chase. Most of us know of the infamous faked GoPro bear chase video that seemed to fool a lot of people. A massive bear seeming to chase behind a biker on a trail. Instead of showing you that one and trying to pass it off as real, I am going to show you a genuine bear encounter GoPro video. This one comes from a man and his cousin that were mountain biking down a trail in the woods. He gets a bit far ahead of his cousin, so he stops to allow him to catch up, when all of a sudden he hears a sound beside him and turns to see a bear running down the hill towards him. He reacts so quickly that you really need to stop and pause the video to even see it. He starts cycling down the hill but crashes, turning around and likely expecting to see the bear right on top of him. Instead, it changes direction and starts heading towards his cousin, but it eventually backs off. You can see in the video that this is actually a mother bear with her cub, and that's likely why she acted so aggressively. Fortunately, both the bikers were okay. Number 3. Stucky's Ghost. This paranormal interaction is short but incredibly unsettling. It comes from a YouTuber named Nomadic Fanatic who travels across the country in his RV, documenting his journey on camera. He becomes lost at a dead end with a bridge and realizes that he is at a location with a haunted history. Stucky's Bridge, which is located in Mississippi, is apparently home to a ghost. A man named Stucky would stand outside at night and lead lost travelers to his inn, where he would then kill them and toss them over the side of the bridge. Stucky's crimes were discovered, and as punishment they killed him over the side of the very same bridge. They say that if you are standing there and hear a splash in the water, it's Stucky's ghost. Nomadic Fanatic is talking about the graffiti on the bridge when he suddenly hears a loud splash. He immediately reacts, looking around him and trying to see if there was anyone or anything around that could have made the sound, but he's clearly all alone. He decides not to stick around and see what Stucky might have to say, and instead runs off the bridge back to his camper. Smart choice. Number 2. Dog Cam. As I mentioned in the last video, one incredibly popular use for GoPro cameras is strapping them to the back of your dog to see their point of view. That's what one couple did did when they left their dog alone in the house so they could see what he was getting up to. When they watched back the footage though, they started to believe that their house may be haunted. Throughout the video, you can see the dog being startled despite us not being able to hear or see anything there. There are also strange sounds that can be heard that make it seem like someone else is in the home, even though the only living being inside is the dog. The dog never seems to be able to calm down, constantly wandering around the house and following after things that we can't see. Eventually, the couple returns home and the dog appears to even try and make a run for it out the door before excitedly greeting his parents. Many people believe that animals are able to see ghosts and spirits that we cannot, and this may be evidence of that. Number 1, plane crash. This one is absolutely terrifying to watch, especially if you are afraid of heights. In this scenario, there were 2 different airplanes that were loaded with skydivers, flying over, waiting to get to their drop zone. Skydivers are often equipped with GoPros to record these stunning heights and views, so there are actually multiple angles of what happened. One plane gets too close and crashes into the other, the wing of one plane bursting into flames. As a result, the skydivers are panicked and have to quickly jump out, one being jostled around and getting hung up on the door before he's finally able to jump himself. Thankfully, they were all equipped with parachutes and were able to make their way safely to the ground. One of the planes was destroyed, but the other was able to land at a nearby runway. The idea of being surrounded by flames and having to jump out of a shaking airplane is absolutely terrifying, even if you were already planning on jumping out of it in the first place.
Kicking off the list at number 10, secret app. At one point or another, we all got the secret vault app on our phones, you know, the one that's designed to look like another app, like a calculator or something like that. It's in case anybody goes through your phone. You can hide your memes or MSN passwords or nudies, whatever you want, all in this app. It just says vault on it too. You're like, okay, well, this is obviously the one. But how secure is that app to begin with? Who's making that? Who's on the other end? Back in June in Australia, hundreds of criminals were arrested after a 3-year operation was complete. The FBI have been trying to crack this case for a while now, obviously 3 years. These cell phones that come from the black market basically have this calculator app that is secretly a platform for criminals to message each other safely. You up? Heist? Question mark? Rose emoji? Shipments, trafficking weapons, contracts, just horrible stuff with horrible people, but the FBI was able to intercept over 20 million messages in over 45 different languages. That's a lot. Operation Trojan Shield. Yeah, you might want to go delete those old pics in that free Vault app you got 10 years ago. Yeah, you never know. Go take a look. You might still have it. Right next to Jellycar. Delete both. Number 9, Governor Rod Blagojevich. Back in October 2008, an FBI investigation towards Governor Rod Blagojevich had began. It all began when one of the governor's associates tipped off the FBI that Rod was promising official favors in exchange of campaign or personal funds. Yeah, that's a no-go in the world of an Illinois governor. You can't do that. So the FBI tapped his office and started recording his phone calls. They recorded him for 7 weeks, and after that point, they had more than enough evidence to arrest him come December 2008. Of course, he was also impeached. Recordings didn't sound great as well. There was lots of profanity, lots of talk about this new job as governor and all these bribes that he could now maintain in the future. Rod Blagojevich was convicted of 18 counts of felony corruption by time 2011 rolled around, including soliciting bribes, attempted extortion, wire fraud, just a plethora of horrible stuff. He was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison, and on top of that, he had to pay fines of up to $21,000. Number 8, Nixon's wiretaps. It wouldn't be shocking if you've heard of the Nixon Watergate hotel scandal. It's pretty massive, history-wise. But if you forget, the Watergate scandal was what led to Nixon resigning in 1974. Back in June 1972, numerous burglars were caught attempting to break into the offices of the Democratic National Committee at the Watergate Hotel in Washington. They were breaking in with the intent to plant bugs. Little mics, not bugs. Although that would be horrible too. There's a bunch of bugs around. Like, where are all these ants come from? Several people involved were connected to Nixon's re-election committee. Nixon denied as best as he could, obviously, reminding us that he's not a crook, famous not a crook line, although we had over 3,500 hours of secretly recorded conversation. Now, there's one 18-minute gap in these tapes. That's what's so compelling still to this day. Maybe he was farting that entire time. You never know. Number 7, Mayor Marion Barry. When the FBI secretly records you, be it video, audio, whatever the case, you're gonna be pretty upset when you eventually find out. No, I would assume I'd be upset. Nixon had all of our phone calls saved. I'd be like, why? What? I was ranting. It's personal. This is private. Back in 1990, the late Marion Barry, who was once mayor of Washington, was being recorded by the FBI and DC police while he was in his hotel room, taking part in some illegal narcotics and such with a friend. Barry went to prison after this was all a big setup, but that still didn't stop him from becoming mayor again once he was released. So you can go to jail, do all this stuff, and bad things happen, get set up by your friend, and then come back and still be a mayor. R.I.P. Number 6, Lance Armstrong's phone calls. Not to be confused with Neil Armstrong, although this next one is truly out of this world. I had to. Lance Armstrong. Lance won the Tour de France 7 times from 1999 to 2005. Impressive, 1000%. I can't even imagine. My legs get tired walking up a hill, let alone cycling this fast and far. Oh my god. It's more than likely you've heard about some happenings with Lance, some scandals and such. In July 2004, Greg LeMond, also a Tour de France winner, he secretly recorded himself having a conversation with Stephanie McIlvaine. Stephanie overheard a conversation previously where Lance was in the hospital being treated for testicular cancer. She admitted on the phone that this is what she heard. Lance admitted to using steroids to a doctor that day. Now this is pretty meta because this is like a confession of something that was overheard in a phone call. It's literally broken telephone at this point, and Armstrong insisted this conversation with medical staff never happened to begin with. But come October 2012, the anti-doping agency confirmed Armstrong had been using throughout his career. The Tour de France then stripped him of all of his titles.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the car chase glitch. This video was caught on a police dash cam and it shows something pretty unexplainable. The police officer is on a car chase with a perpetrator. The criminal is doing his best to evade the police and continually fakes pulling over to then quickly turn around. He's going pretty crazy, swerving all over the road, which is both confusing and strange, but this is when things get really weird. He takes a turn towards a fence and this is when something I can't quite understand happens.
The fence at the end means no way out, or does it?
It would appear as though this man somehow drove through a fence that was left with no holes and then just basically disappeared into the night. I honestly can't figure out what happened here, but this guy must have been extremely lucky or something more sinister is going on. In our number 4 spot today, we have ice. Okay, this is just a reminder, when it is winter and snowing, you gotta clear the snow and ice off of your car. We're not just talking about the stuff on your windows so that you can see, although that is very important too, but you know, the snow on your roof could be more than just snow, and it might just become someone else's nightmare. This dashcam video shows someone driving on the highway as a huge chunk of ice flies off of the roof of the car in front of them. This ice of course finds its perfect landing spot right on the front window of the car with the camera, and it basically just shatters it instantly.
Says Turkish police believe the suspects are supporters of ISIS who were planning attacks on New Year's Eve. Police and prosecutors, 2 suspects were arrested in the Turkish.
Of course, there are so many scenarios where this could have been so much worse, and thankfully the driver was okay and able to pull over safely. But again, it just shows us all the potential dangers of cutting corners when it comes to making sure our cars are clear of snow and debris in those bitter winter months. In our number 3 spot today, we have a landslide. Mother Nature is truly one of the most powerful things on this planet, and while we can do our best to predict some disasters, some seem to just come out of nowhere. This video comes from 2013 and it shows a very near miss during a landslide. The video was taken in Taiwan and comes from the dash of a car that is following behind another one. There's clearly heavy rain as they round a corner, but just as they straighten back out, the car in front of the one with the camera gets pushed into the other lane by a landslide that occurs seemingly out of nowhere. It seems kind of crazy that this dirt came flying over the edge out of nowhere, but when the dust settles a bit, you can see the reason why, which clearly becomes the biggest threat. Yeah, imagine a huge boulder just barely missing you like that. While having all of that stuff come flying at you before was probably a terrifying experience, had that huge boulder been just a foot or 2 over, things could have been so much worse. In our number 2 spot today, we have the California fire. Fire is terrifying. There's really no other way to explain it, and that is exactly what makes this dashcam video so harrowing. This video comes from August 18th, 2020, and it shows the view as someone drives through and tries to escape the Hennessy fire that was seen in Napa County, California. It honestly looks like a scene from a movie, and that isn't meant to downplay it. It's just so unbelievable and absolutely terrifying. It is said that the fire was started after a series of unusual thunderstorms rolled through the area as a tropical storm had been diminishing. These storms brought a reported 10,849 lightning strikes, which in turn sparked about 376 known fires across the state. In our number 1 spot today, we have the bushfire. This is a video that comes to us from the Dunmore Rural Fire Brigade and is from January 2020 during a bushfire. The video caught on the dash cam shows the fire crew responding to try and help protect some of the residents' properties, and things seem like fairly low-key and sort of routine at the beginning. But things quickly take quite the turn, and that is all because of a very sudden change in the 100km/h winds. This video does an amazing job at showing us just how quickly these sort of things can change, and man is it frightening. You can totally see the atmosphere change and darken as they all pack up and move to get out of there as quickly as possible before the fire gets absolutely out of control. Just as they drive off into the distance, the fire begins to rage uncontrollably, and by the 2-minute mark of this 3.5-minute video, the area is unrecognizable.